The night was supposed to be another high-energy episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live, laughter, applause, a bit of snarky monologue, and a legendary guest to cap it off. That night's special guest was Clint Eastwood, the iconic actor-director whose presence alone brought gravity to the stage. Fans, crew members, and even Kimmel himself were buzzing with excitement. After all, getting Clint to appear on late-night TV was a rarity. At 94, he didn't do interviews often, and certainly not with comedians known for edgy humor. As the intro music faded and Jimmy walked out to cheers, he teased the crowd about the night's big guest. Tonight, we have the man who made whispering cool, made squinting iconic, and made talking to furniture presidential, Jimmy joked, drawing a wave of laughter as he referenced Clint's infamous 2012 Republican National Convention speech. Please welcome, the legend himself, Mr. Clint Eastwood. Clint walked out in his signature understated style, dark blazer, jeans, calm eyes, and a firm, no-nonsense gait. The audience gave a standing ovation. Clint nodded with a slight grin, shook Jimmy's hand, and sat down. At first, the conversation was cordial. They spoke about Clint's newest film project, an intimate Western drama centered on redemption and fatherhood. Clint explained how he had cast unknown actors to give the story a raw, authentic tone. Jimmy responded with genuine interest. "You're still directing at 94, he said, marveling. Is there anything that slows you down?" Clint chuckled. "Only traffic and bad writing." The audience laughed. So far, so good. But Kimmel, ever the provocateur, couldn't resist pushing into more provocative territory. "So Clint," he said with a sly grin, "are you still talking to empty chairs or have you moved on to arguing with houseplants?" The room erupted in laughter, except for Clint. He leaned back slightly, his smile fading. There was a brief pause, and while Jimmy was expecting a witty comeback, Clint offered a cold, hard stare instead. "You know, Jimmy," he began, voice low and gravelly, "you don't have to pretend to be funny when you're being disrespectful." A subtle gasp rippled through the crowd. Jimmy, caught off guard, tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Clint, it's a joke. You're a legend. You can take a few jabs, right?" Clint didn't smile. "Sure, I can take a jab. But when someone invites you into their home and mocks you instead of having a conversation, you've got to wonder what kind of host that is." Now the tension was real. The mood shifted palpably. Kimmel adjusted in his chair, chuckling nervously. "I mean, even the president gets roasted. We mess with everyone here." "But I'm not the president," Clint interrupted, voice sharper now. "I'm a filmmaker. I came here to talk about storytelling, not to be part of a skit. If you wanted a clown, you should have looked in the mirror." The crowd murmured, unsure how to react. Some laughed nervously, others looked stunned. Jimmy's eyes darted toward his producers. He tried salvaging it. "Look, Clint, I respect you. But people tune in to hear jokes. Even you, Mr. Tough Guy, have to lighten up sometimes." Clint shook his head. "This isn't about tough guys. It's about dignity." Without waiting for a response, he stood up and calmly began unhooking his mic. Audience members were now frozen, phones starting to rise discreetly. Jimmy looked off stage again. Someone signaled to security, not because Clint was being aggressive, but because no one had a clue what was going to happen next. "You're really walking off?" Jimmy asked incredulously. Clint paused and turned back toward him, expression unreadable. "No, I'm leaving. There's a difference." He stepped off the stage, and security followed loosely, unsure if they were escorting him or just making sure he got out safely. Before disappearing behind the curtain, Clint looked out at the crowd one last time. Enjoy your laugh track, folks. I'll stick to real stories. And just like that, one of Hollywood's last true legends walked off Jimmy Kimmel Live, not in anger, not in showmanship, but with the kind of quiet, stern authority that had defined him for decades. It was an unforgettable moment, not just for the audience that night, but for everyone watching online within hours. Clint Eastwood didn't make a scene. He made a statement. By the time Clint Eastwood had stepped into his waiting car that night, the internet was already on fire. Clips from the tense exchange on Jimmy Kimmel Live were going viral within minutes. A short, shaky phone recording from an audience member showed Clint unhooking his microphone and walking off stage after saying, "Enjoy your laugh track, folks. I'll stick to real stories." The moment was instantly immortalized. The hashtags started trending. Hashtag Eastwoodwalks, hashtag KimmelDisrespect, hashtag ClintSkimmel. Social media split into factions. One group praised Clint for standing his ground, saying he demonstrated class and strength in the face of cheap shots. The other camp accused him of being too sensitive, arguing that comedy always came with a little sting. By morning, nearly every entertainment outlet had picked up the story. Major headlines read, "Legend walks off Kimmel set in stunning showdown. Clint Eastwood schools Jimmy Kimmel on respect. Kimmel's joke goes too far. Eastwood exits with dignity." Behind the scenes at ABC, executives were in damage control mode. Jimmy Kimmel's team scrambled to spin the situation, issuing a brief and vague statement. "Clint Eastwood remains one of the greatest talents in the history of film. We thank him for joining us and regret the misunderstanding." But the apology was seen by many as half-hearted and self-serving. Jimmy himself tried to laugh it off with a tweet, "Guess Clint Eastwood made my day, by walking off." Still a legend though. No hard feelings. The joke didn't land. In fact, it only inflamed things further. The next 24 hours were brutal. Clint's name was mentioned over 5 million times on X, formerly Twitter, and even Hollywood elites began weighing in. Morgan Freeman tweeted, "Respect. That's what Clint Eastwood stands for. Always has. Some people still don't get it." Actor Mark Wahlberg posted, "You don't mock legends. You listen to them." Even Steven Spielberg, rarely one to comment on pop culture drama, issued a short statement, "Clint is the real deal. Always has been." That moment wasn't about ego, it was about integrity. Still, Clint himself remained silent. Until the next evening. Instead of doing a media tour or issuing a tweet, Clint appeared in a quiet, pre-recorded interview on PBS with journalist Charlie Burton, a longtime friend who had interviewed Clint several times over the years. The setting was stark and respectful. 2 chairs, a wooden table, and black coffee in hand. When asked about the Kimmel moment, Clint didn't dodge. "I don't care about television antics," he said. "I've been in this industry for over 60 years. I've seen real talent, real stories, and I've seen people lose their way trying to be clever instead of honest." Burton leaned in, pressing gently. "So walking off, was it planned?" Clint shook his head. "No. But it was necessary. There's a point in every man's life where you stop tolerating empty noise. I was invited on to talk about a film that means something to me. Instead, I walked into a joke that didn't land. I decided I didn't need to be part of it." The clip went viral instantly. Fans across the globe flooded the comment sections with messages of support. His words, calm, measured, and mature, hit differently in a world so used to reactive outrage. "There's a point in every man's life where you stop tolerating empty noise," became a meme, a quote, a movement. Meanwhile, Clint's new film, Dust and Bone, which had struggled to gain mainstream distribution, suddenly became the most talked about indie film in the country. The trailer, released quietly weeks prior, was now at the top of YouTube's trending list. The story, about a retired gunslinger seeking forgiveness from the family of a man he wrongfully killed, resonated deeply. Clint not only starred but directed and scored the film. Overnight, the buzz turned into action. Studio executives began bidding wars to pick up the film for theatrical release. Jimmy Kimmel, under increasing pressure, finally addressed the controversy seriously on his next show. "I messed up," he said, facing the camera. "Comedy doesn't give you a free pass to be unkind. Clint Eastwood is a legend, and I disrespected him. I apologize, sincerely. I hope someday he'll forgive me, but I respect his choice either way." The audience clapped, but the tone was more solemn than usual. Clint never responded directly, nor did he return to any late-night stage. He didn't need to. His silence carried more weight than most speeches. Dust and Bone went on to become a sleeper hit, earning him nominations for Best Director and Best Actor. When he accepted the Lifetime Achievement Award months later at the Oscars, he gave a nod to the drama, saying simply, "Sometimes, walking away is the loudest thing you can do."